A whole hearing about a 24-hour hiccup in a right-wing political operation. That is why we are here right now. And it's just an abuse of public resources, an abuse of public time. We could be talking about health care. We could be talking about bringing down the cost of prescription drugs. We could be talking about abortion rights, civil rights, voting rights. But instead, we're talking about Hunter Biden's half-fake laptop story.
Half fake? What's half fake? Did you hear AOC? She is rather het up. We could be talking about killing babies as opposed to talking about one of the biggest disinformation campaigns and suppressions of the truth in modern American history. Let's unpack what's been happening in the last few days and what it means for the future of censorship in America with two people who understand the story intimately. The woman who first broke the story at the New York Post. She is now the politics editor for the Breitbart.com website. She's Emma Jo Morris. And a man who was responsible for cyber issues in the State Department is now the founder of an amazing organization, the Foundation for Freedom Online. Mike Benz, welcome to Rob Schmidt Tonight.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Emma Jo, you were the person responsible, along with your colleagues at the New York Post, for breaking the original story. I've got to get your reaction to Yoel Roth, this former Twitter executive, head of whatever safety compliance and fascistic censorship at the hearings, when he gave his version of events about the suppression of your original story. Play cut.
I've been clear that in my judgment at the time, Twitter should not have taken action to block the New York Post's reporting. And just 24 hours after doing so, the company acknowledged its error. But the decisions here aren't straightforward, and hindsight is 20/20. I believe Twitter erred in this case because we wanted to avoid repeating the mistakes of 2016.
Yeah, that was so...
Are you satisfied with that answer, Emma Jo?
In a way, actually, because it was so revealing. Because, okay, in 2020, like right after the election, Time Magazine had this scandalous piece, actually, which they didn't even realize how scandalous it was because they're so out of touch with their purpose of existence. But the Time Magazine had a piece about what was called, in the piece, election fortification. And what that basically was a conspiracy among tech companies to make sure that at no, like, to make sure that at no cost being too high, that Donald Trump would not be president again. And what he's talking about when he refers to 2016 is WikiLeaks and the Podesta emails, and how true information that was revealed and disseminated online ended up impacting people's decision in voting. And so they were going to make sure that they were going to prevent that from happening no matter what. And Hunter Biden and the New York Post reporting was another instance that triggered that instinct in them to just cut it off. It doesn't matter if it's true. They knew it was true. And Jim Baker was also in that hearing saying that he didn't know that the FBI had it. We had a subpoena. We had published a subpoena in that October 14th story. So these people knew that this was legit. They knew it was authentic. And what they were worried about was 2016. That's exactly right. When people learned about the truth about a candidate, and then it impacted their decision about that candidate.
Yeah, such a telling soundbite there. Mike, I got to get you to comment on this Twitter thread from Matt Taibbi. It's one of the Twitter Files recent releases about something called the Global Engagement Center at the Department of State that engaged on the suppression with private media companies on stories to do with COVID and alleged Russian misinformation. Why is the State Department doing this, Mike? Help me out.
The Global Engagement Center is perhaps one of the dirtiest underbellies of the domestic censorship apparatus within the federal government. You see, the GEC, Global Engagement Center, was set up initially to help tackle ISIS propaganda because of fears of homegrown ISIS recruiting on Facebook and Twitter. What happened was, after the 2016 election, all of that foreign counterterrorism narrative mapping on social media to map the language of terrorists was done to map the language of populists and Trump supporters in the U.S. and Brexit supporters in the U.K. and Bolsonaro supporters in Brazil ad infinitum. The State Department was given $120 million transferred from the Department of Defense to fight so-called Russian propaganda, and then quickly conflated Trump with Russia and used that as the basis for essentially an international crusade against all forms of domestic populism, principally the international alliances that Trump had. Let me just translate what you just said, Mike, because it's so incredibly important. And you have to follow Mike Benz. You have to follow Emma Jo Morris. Counterterrorism tools were used to suppress U.S. citizens simply because they were conservatives. This is the enormity of what we're talking about. The use of the national security state for the targeting of those that you politically disagree with. Please follow both of these warriors for the truth and check out the Foundation for Freedom online. Thank you, Mike Benz. Thank you, Emma Jo Morris. DirecTV has declared war on the truth as well. As you know, AT&T, DirecTV has removed Newsmax from 13 million homes. It was sheer censorship. DirecTV is keeping 22 liberal news channels that cost you much more than Newsmax, and they have lower ratings than we do. Please continue to help us fight for the First Amendment. We're working every day to get the truth out.